Chapter 414, Beaten 2. While grabbing Suanna's hair, Grandma Gao slapped her and said, "Bitch, not only do you not take me seriously, you also dare to incite my grandson to go against me. If I don't teach you a lesson today, one day you're going to shit in my head." Immediately afterward, a series of slaps fell on Suanna's cheeks. After a while, her cheeks were swollen, with a clear palm print on it. Feeling the burning pain in her cheeks, Suanna became angry. She used all her strength to get her hair out of Grandma Gao's hands and push her away. With one push, Grandma Gao's waist hit the corner of the cabinet, making a loud noise. As soon as Grandma Gao felt the severe pain in her old waist, she exclaimed, "Ayah, my waist." De Gao was shocked when he saw this. He rushed over to support his grandma, who was lying on the ground holding her waist, and exclaimed, "Grandma." Seeing Grandma Gao lying on the ground with a pale face, Suanna glared at her hatefully and said, "Old bitch, don't think that I dare not fight you. If you dare to hit me again, I will report you to the authorities and let them put you in jail." Hearing her words, Grandma Gao and De Gao were both stunned. They looked at her with wide eyes and disbelief, as if what she just said was too outrageous. After a while, Grandma Gao finally found her voice, pointed her finger at her, and shouted, "Oh, my poor life. On the first day of my grandson's wedding, I was not only disrespected by my grandson's wife, but she also threatened me. Heavens how am I going to live my life now?" Seeing Grandma Gao like this, Suanna recalled the scene when Zyro Yiking was forced into the corner by Mother Yang, and her body shivered as she felt a cold run down her spine. These village women, even if they are illiterate, are the best at playing the victim. If this problem is not solved, she may fall into deep trouble. After thinking about it, Suanna clenched her fists and rushed out without hesitation. De Gao and Grandma Gao were caught off guard when they saw her running away so suddenly. The next moment, they heard Suanna's cry for help coming from outside. Grandma Gao thought something bad would happen if she let her go rampant and endured the pain on her waist. She pushed her grandson away, rushed out to drag Suanna back, but by the time she saw her, it was too late. At this time, Suanna was already running towards the production team's office while shouting, "Help, someone please save me. Grandma Gao wants to beat me to death." Since it was not early anymore, most of the villagers were already awake. Hearing the noise, they came out to check the situation one after another. The villagers were shocked when they saw the clear palm prints on Suanna's swollen cheeks. Although it is common for mothers-in-law or elders to beat a daughter-in-law, this is the first time that an elder has beaten a newlywed daughter-in-law on the first day of marriage. Let alone an educated youth who comes from the city who was beaten. Even a village girl would feel humiliated by being treated like this. Seeing that she had successfully attracted the attention of the villagers, Suanna stumbled deliberately and fell to the ground, looking even more pitiful. Soon, Grandma Gao arrived, and De Gao followed after her closely. Grandma Gao's eyes lit up the moment she saw her falling to the ground. She rushed to Suanna, grabbed her hair and beat her hard. "You still dare to run? Didn't you want to report me for beating you? Let's see who dares to help you." Although she was able to resist Grandma Gao's attack, Suanna still gritted her teeth and endured the pain. She covered her head as she cried and begged, "Grandma, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have overslept, but I had a fever yesterday and couldn't wake up early today to cook for you. I told you yesterday and you agreed to let me rest today. Why did you hit me suddenly now? If I did anything wrong, I apologize to you. Please spare my life and stop hitting me." Hearing her words, Grandma Gao was stunned. She didn't remember Suanna telling her about the fever at all. This bitch is lying. Thinking of this, Grandma Gao was so angry that her chest hurt. Regardless of the fact that she was in a public place, she kicked Suanna on the back and grabbed her hair as if she was possessed. Everyone knows that Grandma Gao is a person who thinks that as long as she beats people until they are scared, she can control others. But they never expected that she would lose control and beat Suanna like she did today. Seeing that the situation might escalate, a villager said, "De Gao, don't just sit idly by. Separate your grandma and your wife quickly. Otherwise, you may become a widow on the first day of your marriage." As soon as he heard this, he came back to his senses and rushed over to grab his grandma's arms. De Gao was worried about hurting his grandma, so he could only persuade and protect his wife from her beating. "Grandma, stop hitting. You will kill my wife if you continue." Hearing what her grandson said, Grandma Gao looked at him in disbelief and shouted, "You unfilial brat. You have only been married to her for a day and you dare to go against your grandma." "No, Grandma, I..." Before he could speak, Grandma Gao had already raised her hands and started beating them. While he was being beaten, De Gao saw the villagers pointing at him and laughing. Feeling that his self-esteem had been trampled on by his grandma, his eyes darkened. He waved his hand, and a loud slap echoed in the area. I said, enough is enough. What followed the loud sound of slap was gasps from the onlookers. Everyone was shocked when they saw de Gaulle slap his grandma and the old lady fall to the ground. She hit her head on the stone and just lay there unmoving. After a long silence, de Gaulle finally realized something was wrong with his grandma and said doubtfully, "Grandma, don't pretend to be unconscious." Seeing his grandma lying motionless on the ground, he walked over and found that her head was bleeding. Looking at the blood on the surface of the stone, de Gaulle's face turned pale. He turned to look at Suanna and said tremblingly, "Wife, what should I do? Grandma, her head is bleeding. Did I kill my grandma?" Suanna was disgusted that he called her that and lowered her head, pretending to look scared. Not long after, a villager shouted, "Take your grandma to Dr. Zai, otherwise she will really die." Hearing these words, Suanna's eyes flashed with a ruthless look for a moment, and then returned to normal. Since the old woman wanted to force her to death, she could only blame herself for losing her life. Closing her eyes, Suanna fell to the ground weakly, pretending to faint. Because of the sudden situation, everyone panicked, especially de Gaulle. He only had one pair of hands, but he had to carry his grandmother and wife on his back to find a doctor. At this moment, his situation reflects the question, who do you save when both your grandma and I drown in the river? After hesitating for a moment, he chose to leave his grandma behind, pick up his wife on his back, and run to Dr. Zai's house. Since his grandma is old, even if a stranger hugs her, she will not be punished for behaving indecently in public, but his wife is young and beautiful. What if a man takes advantage of her? What's more, his grandma is so fat. If he carries her all the way to Dr. Zai's house, he will be so exhausted that he can't even carry his wife later. So he'd better send his wife first, and then come back to carry his grandma. Although he thought he made the best decision in this tricky situation, to onlookers, his behavior was tantamount to abandoning his grandmother, who raised him for so many years, for his young, beautiful wife. While they felt sorry for Grandma Gao, no one was stupid enough to help carry her to the doctor. Who doesn't know that the Gao family is so stingy and loves to take advantage of others? What if they helped her and she blamed them? Not only do their good deeds go in vain, but they may also lose money or even their reputation. In this way, Grandma Gao lay there for more than half an hour, with no one checking her condition. When De Gao came back and carried her to Dr. Zai's house, her breathing was as light as butterfly wings. He thought that as long as he took her to see a doctor, his grandma would be fine. Unexpectedly, after Dr. Zai checked her pulse, he shook his head and said, "If you still want to save her life, take her to the county hospital as soon as possible. I had no way to save her life." Worried that he would be arrested for killing his grandmother, De Gao's knees weakened and he sat on the ground with a pale face. Seeing him like this, Dr. Zai didn't feel sorry for him at all. Everything happens because of themselves, so they can't blame anyone for their misfortunes. After packing up the tools, Dr. Zai said calmly, "Okay, don't block my way. Give me 1 yuan and take your grandma and wife to the hospital." After listening to his words, De Gao quickly searched Grandma Gao's sleeves and took out her purse. He paid the money and said, "Dr. Zai, can you take care of my wife while I take my grandma to the hospital?" Dr. Zai glanced sideways at him but said nothing. Taking this as a silent agreement, De Gao picked up his grandma and hurriedly went to Han Yuheng's house to borrow the tractor. After they left, Dr. Zai kicked the bamboo bed and said, "Go back to your home. Don't pretend to be dead in my home." The next moment, Suanna opened her eyes and glared at Dr. Zai. She knew she couldn't fool the doctor, but she didn't expect him to help her. Since he helped her, she wouldn't argue with him. After tidying herself up, she left Dr. Zai's home with weak steps. Seeing her like this, Dr. Zai's eyes flashed with disgust. He had no intention of helping her. As long as he was being paid, he would stay out of their business. So when he found out that she was actually pretending to be unconscious, he didn't expose her lie or say anything to De Gao. All he did was let De Gao think whatever he wanted to believe and let them act the play. As for Grandma Gao, even if the doctor managed to save her life, she might have to stay in bed for the rest of her life. Dr. Zai drank tea and fell into deep thought. He wanted to know what her fate would be. Will she be abandoned by her family like him? Or maybe, the grandson who was branded as a good-for-nothing would be filial to her and take care of her for the rest of her life. Regardless of the outcome, it will be interesting. Life in this village is not bad at all, even livelier than in the capital. At the same time, Suanna was walking back to Gao's house. With her swollen cheeks and unkempt appearance, she won the sympathy of the villagers. Some villagers even expressed support for her and agreed to report Grandma Gao to the authorities. Having achieved her goal, Suanna returned while feeling proud of herself. Because of the affairs of the Gao family, the whole morning was spent in excitement. At noon, several villagers went to Han Yuheng to report the matter. Sitting in the living room, Han Yuheng's face darkened after listening to the villagers' explanations. He rubbed his forehead and said, "Everyone, this is a private matter of the Gao family. We have no right to interfere. What's more, didn't you say that Grandma Gao was also admitted to the hospital because of this incident? Since both parties were injured, if we report them, the three of them will be sent to jail. This will benefit no one, and I'm sure Su Anna will not thank you for it." The villagers were hesitant after hearing his words. One of them asked, "Team leader, what do you think is the best solution to this matter?" Before Han Yuheng could answer, another middle-aged woman added, "This matter can't just pass like this. As far as I'm concerned, this matter is Aunt Gao's fault. Doesn't the leader say that everyone is equal? Even if she is the family's elder, it's too much for her to beat her own granddaughter-in-law in public like this." After hearing her words, everyone nodded. Most of the people here today are daughters-in-law who have been beaten at home, either by their husbands or their parents-in-law. They hope that through Su Anna's case, they will be better protected in the future. So if they were beaten by their parents-in-law, they can threaten them with this matter. Therefore, in order to achieve their goal, they did not think too much about whether this incident would affect Su Anna's reputation and future or not. Although Han Yuheng could guess the villagers' intentions, he could not refute their words because the leader did say that everyone is equal and enjoys the same rights. Normally, he wouldn't mind helping them report the matter to the authorities, but he is now at a critical stage of promotion. He couldn't let this matter become a big deal and affect his performance report. After a long silence, he finally said, "I understand everyone's concerns about this matter, but before the truth is found out, I will not let anyone report this matter to the authorities. If it is a family dispute, it will affect our village's reputation if we report it. I believe you all don't want this to happen, right?" Although the villagers hope to use this incident to their own benefit, they really cannot risk the reputation of the village. They also have unmarried children at home. If the village's reputation is not good, it will be difficult for the children to find a good match in the future. After weighing the pros and cons, the villagers finally agreed to go home first and make the decision after learning the truth. Then we will follow the team leader's arrangements. Hearing those words, Han Yuheng heaved a sigh of relief and said, "Good." As soon as Han Yuheng saw off the villagers, he saw Sheng Xiaohong walking over with a smile on her face. She looked neater and more normal than before, but to him, the smile on her face gave him a bad feeling. He was already annoyed when villagers interrupted him during his nap, so seeing her coming, his face was as black as coal. When she stood in front of him, he asked coldly, "Sheng Xiaohong, I warned you not to disturb me and my family again. Did you take my words as farts?" Hearing his words, Sheng Xiaohong no longer felt as scared as before. Instead, she chuckled and said confidently, "Han Yuheng, I suggest you be polite to me, otherwise you may regret it." Han Yuheng seemed to have heard the funniest joke and laughed loudly. "I will regret it. I, Han Yuheng, am an upright person and will never do anything that I regret." Sheng Xiaohong nodded and said with a knowing look, "Ah, so that's the case. No wonder you don't feel any guilt when having an extramarital affair with someone else's wife." When Han Yuheng heard her words, his pupils shrank in shock for a moment, and then returned to normal. Although what she said was true, he was sure that no one knew about his affair with that woman. Maybe Sheng Xiaohong just wanted to find some clues from him and make random guesses. After coming to this conclusion, he calmed down and said, "I don't know what nonsense you are talking about, but I suggest you think before you speak. Otherwise, I will report you for slander." Even though she was threatened, Sheng Xiaohong did not show fear but laughed instead. "What are you laughing at?" Han Yuheng asked angrily. After a while, Sheng Xiaohong calmed down. She approached him and whispered, "I just realized that you are not as smart as I thought. Do you think I will be scared away if you threaten me? Han Yuheng, let me tell you something. I have you and your ex-lover evidence of an extramarital affair. What do you think would happen to you if I gave this evidence to the authorities or the brigade leader?" Hearing her words, Han Yuheng's face suddenly turned pale. He always made sure to leave no evidence behind. So how could this woman hold evidence against him? If his extramarital affair is reported, not only will his career be ruined, he may also be paraded through the streets across the entire brigade to suffer humiliation, or even imprisoned for several years. Although he knew that Sheng Xiaohong might not have any evidence and was just bluffing, he couldn't take the risk. In the end, he could only clench his fists tightly and ask through gritted teeth, "What do you want?" Sheng Xiaohong finally heard what she wanted to hear. She smiled and said, "Cousin-in-law, you know that I'm a widow and life is very difficult for me. As long as you give me some food and money to survive the day, I can promise you that I will take this secret to my grave. He was used to being flattered by others. So Han Yuheng became furious because he was threatened by a woman who he looked down upon. Unfortunately, there was nothing he could do to her. Now he could only comply with her request and find a way to deal with her and remove this ticking time bomb. Sheng Xiaohong didn't know that he was already plotting on how to silence her, and felt very proud at this moment. She has no advantage except witnessing Han Yuheng's extramarital affair with that woman. But after knowing him for so many years, she knew his personality very well. That's why she dared to come to him and threaten him with only a few words. After weighing the pros and cons, Han Yuheng finally said, "All right, you wait here." Without waiting for her answer, he closed the door with a bang and walked towards the kitchen. When he arrived in the backyard, he saw his daughter Han Liling carrying her brother on her back while washing clothes. As for his wife, she went to her parents' house in the morning and has not come back yet. As long as she didn't cause him trouble or embarrass him, he didn't care what she was doing. Usually he still has a certain amount of patience when facing his daughter, but after what happened, he found that his daughter looked so unpleasant to his eyes due to his bad mood. Hearing her father's footsteps, Han Liling raised her head and asked, "Father, do you need anything?" Looking at her expressionless yellow face, Han Yuheng snorted and walked to the kitchen without saying anything. In the kitchen, he poured 5 bowls of whole grains and put 5 eggs into sacks. After tying the sack, he headed toward the front yard. Han Liling looked at her father's back thoughtfully. Out of curiosity, she followed him, hiding behind a bush and eavesdropping. Han Yuheng didn't notice his daughter following him, handed the bag to Sheng Xiaohong and said, "I only have this, take it." Seeing the food, Sheng Xiaohong's eyes lit up and she stretched out her hand. But before she could take the sack, Han Yuheng took it back and said, "You'd better remember what you said." "Don't worry, as long as you complete your part, I will complete mine," Sheng Xiaohong said impatiently and snatched the sack from his hand. After saying that, she turned and left. Behind the bushes, Han Liling frowned. Although she didn't know what deal her father had made with that person, she was sure that it was an unfavorable deal for her father. Otherwise, his father would not show that kind of expression. Although she didn't like her father, her fate was still tied to this family before she could leave this family, so she has to figure out what's going on and take precautions. After making this decision, she quickly slipped away and continued working in the backyard. In the county hospital, De Gao sat in a daze outside the ward. After borrowing a tractor, he took his grandma to the hospital, but was told that his grandma would lose the ability to move and could only spend the rest of her life in bed. She needs someone to attend to her every night, including urination and defecation. She couldn't even move her mouth to speak and could only make some sounds. Just thinking about this made his scalp numb. Over the years, it was his grandma who went to work in the farmland to earn work points. How can she earn work points now when she can't even move? What's more, even if both his brother and he work hard to earn work points, it's still very difficult to take care of his grandma. Not to mention they will be too tired after working in the fields to take care of her. He was disgusted just thinking about cleaning her excrement. As for Su Anna, he was sure that if he asked her to take care of his grandma, she would never agree. As someone who was born in a wealthy family and lives in the city, she would definitely leave him if he asked her to do this. Recalling the way those men who were more qualified than him looked at him with envious eyes, De Gao felt so proud. He couldn't and wouldn't let go of Su Anna, so the only option is to remove this burden. But he couldn't leave his grandma in the hospital or throw her into the mountains. After a long time, an idea came to his mind. His grandma is already old, and she probably won't live long after she gets this illness. As long as he brings her back and places her in her room, she will die without them doing anything. When she died, he would hold her funeral and make some money. The thought brought a smile to his face. After making the decision, De Gao went to the doctor to get his grandma's discharge order. Since staying in the hospital would do little to help the patient's condition, the doctor agreed to let him take her back. When they returned to Zai village, the sun was already setting in the west. Seeing him carrying Grandma Gao on his back, the villagers were shocked to see the drool on Grandma Gao's lips and the strange sounds coming from her throat. Some villagers were so frightened that they took several steps back to keep their distance. Seeing the disgust on their faces, De Gao was very angry, but when he felt the wet spots on his back, he also felt disgusted. Therefore, he could only ignore the villagers and speed up his pace. When he got home, he saw his brother peeking into his room. Without looking, he knew who he was peeking at. Anger rushed into his heart and De Gao shouted, "Zyro Gao, what on earth are you doing? How dare you peek at your sister-in-law?" Zyro Gao was startled by his brother's shout and turned around with a pale face. When he saw his older brother carrying his grandma, he held back his anger and asked, "Brother, what happened to our grandma? Why are you carrying her?" De Gao was dissatisfied with his stupid and useless brother. As he walked into the house, he said, "Grandma fell and injured her head. From now on, she can only lie in bed, so you will be the one responsible for taking care of her." When Zyro Gao heard what he said, he immediately retorted, "Why me? Based on what?" De Gao stopped and turned to look at him. "Because Grandma loves you the most and I need to work to earn work points. Or do you want to be the one who earns work points?" After saying that, he walked to Grandma Gao's room and put her on the bed. Zyro Gao followed him and was surprised when he saw his grandma's condition. Her mouth and eyes were slanted, and she stared at them with strange noises coming from her throat. She looked so terrible that he didn't dare stand near the bed. After a while, he finally found his voice and asked, "Brother, what happened to Grandma? How did she end up like this?" De Gao glanced at his grandma and said calmly, "Didn't I already tell you? Grandma fell down while beating my wife and hit her head on a stone." Hearing his grandma beating Su Anna, Zyro Gao thought of the scars on Su Anna's body just now and felt very angry. He looked at Grandma Gao and said angrily, "Grandma, how can you hit my sister-in-law? Don't you know how weak she is? Now that you become like this, you can only blame yourself." Hearing her grandson's words, Grandma Gao's eyes widened with disbelief. She felt very angry and frustrated, but she couldn't even say a word. As a result, the strange noise coming from her throat became louder and sounded more terrifying. While Zyro Gao was scared, De Gao was even more worried about his wife's condition. So he left the room without saying a word to see Su Anna's condition. As soon as he opened the door, he saw her applying ointment on her shoulder. Seeing her fair and smooth skin covered with purple bruises, his heart ached, but a fire began to ignite in his body. He closed the door and locked it. Su Anna was startled when she heard the sound of the lock, and quickly pulled up her clothes. "Who?" "Wife, it's me." As soon as she heard De Gao's voice, she felt chills running down her spine. She could put off the matter of consummating their marriage for a day, but not forever. She hoped that people sent by Zyro Yiguan would come to rescue her today. Unexpectedly, there is still no news from them even until now. She knew that at this moment, her chances of escaping from De Gao's hands were almost zero. Thinking of Zyro Yiking's situation at that time, she couldn't help but tremble all over. She didn't want to go through that hell, but can she fight back and defend her innocence? Instead of being forced or beaten, she chose to accept her fate and use it to control De Gao. As long as she controls him, she can find a way to escape. As for her purity, she couldn't care too much. It would be pointless to be chased if she died. The top priority is to find a way to deal with this person and plan for the future. She believed that Li Chenmo would understand that she was forced by the situation and only had him in her heart. He wouldn't blame her for making this decision. Therefore, despite her disgust and hatred toward De Gao, she still smiled sweetly at him and said, "De Gao, why didn't you say anything when you came in? You almost scared me to death." Seeing her smiling at him, De Gao's heart beat so fast. As he took off his clothes, he walked up to her and said, "Wife, I want you to be completely mine. Give yourself to me, will you?" Lowering her head to hide her disgust, Su Anna clenched her fists tightly until blood seeped out from her palm and said, "De Gao, I'm scared." De Gao felt like his heart had been scratched by a cat. He stretched out his hand to pull off her clothes and said, "Wife, I will be gentle, don't be afraid." Closing her eyes, Su Anna gritted her teeth, thinking that it was not De Gao who pinned her down on the bed, but Li Chenmo. Only in this way could she resist the urge to vomit. When De Gao saw her closing her eyes and not rejecting his approach, he was so excited that he felt like he had been injected with chicken blood. All the bad moods he felt since morning disappeared, and he focused all his attention on the beautiful scenery in front of him. It was full of wind and storm in De Gao's room. Meanwhile, Zyro Gao and Grandma Gao were left together in Grandma Gao's room, listening to their loud movements and moaning. Zyro Gao looked at his brother's room with envy and muttered, "Grandma, I don't have time to take care of you, so just go to sleep for now." After leaving these words, he left the room and went to peek at his brother. Left alone in the room, Grandma Gao's eyes were red, and tears rolled down from the corners of her eyes. She closed her eyes and cried silently. Early the next morning, before dawn, Lu Jiyu was awakened by a knock on the door from the backyard. Sensing the urgency of the knock on the door, she drowsily opened her eyes to see what was going on. But before she could get up, she heard her husband's hoarse voice, "Wife, I'm going to see who's coming. Just stay inside." Knowing that it was safer to let her husband check the situation than to check it herself, Lu Jiyu nodded and stayed in the bedroom to wait for him. After putting on his shoes, Li Chenmo went to the backyard to check the situation. This was the first time someone knocked on his door so early. Before opening the door, he asked, "Who is it?" "Brother Lee, please open the door, it's me, Beiji." Hearing his voice, Lee Chenmo opened the door and saw an unconscious man on Beiji's back. Seeing the blood on their clothes, he frowned and said, "Come in." After hearing what he said, Beiji breathed a sigh of relief, entered the house and said, "Thank you, Brother Lee." After confirming that no one was following Beiji, Lee Chenmo closed the door and locked it. Then he turned to look at Beiji and asked, "What's wrong?" "Brother Lee, please save my brother, he was stabbed," Beiji said anxiously. Judging from the man's wounds and pale face, Lee Chenmo guessed that he must have bled a lot. They had to tend to his wounds as quickly as possible, or he might bleed to death. "Follow me." Lee Chenmo took them to an empty room near the backyard and said, "Put him on the bed, I'll notify my wife first." Beiji nodded and said, "Okay, thank you, Brother Lee." After leaving the room, Lee Chenmo went to his bedroom. As soon as he entered the room, he saw his wife already tidying up her hair and waiting for him. Lu Jiu saw him coming and asked, "Husband, who is coming?" "It's Beiji, his brother was stabbed and lost too much blood. Wife, do you have a first aid kit box?" Lee Chenmo explained. Hearing this, Lu Jiu was stunned for a moment, but quickly nodded and took out a first aid kit box from her space. After handing the box to her husband, she went to get a clean cloth from the cabinet. She got a basin of hot water from her own space and brought it to her husband. As soon as she entered the room, she saw her husband cleaning the unconscious man's wound with alcohol. She put the basin on the bedside table and said, "Husband, we need to ask the doctor to treat him. The wound was too deep." I'll try to stop the bleeding first," Lee Chenmo said while continuing to clean the wound. Beiji, who was standing behind him, was so worried that he couldn't stand still. Seeing that the wound was still bleeding, he said, "Brother Lei, please tell me where the doctor's house is. I'll ask him to come over." Lee Chenmo thought for a moment and said, "He lives in the east of the village. If you see herbs growing in the yard of a house, that's his house." Beiji nodded at his words and said, "I'll be back as soon as possible." As soon as he finished speaking, Beiji had already run out to find a doctor. When the two were alone, Lu Jiu took out a small glass bottle from her own space and said, "Husband, this is spiritual grass powder. Sprinkle some on his wound. Maybe it can help him stop bleeding." Lee Chenmo looked at the small bottle and nodded. He knew it was the same substance his wife added to her tonic wine to increase the taste and health benefits. Since it is safe to eat, it should also be safe to use on wounds. He opens the lid and sprinkle a pinch of spiritual grass powder on the unconscious man's wounds. The moment the powder came into contact with his wound, it dissolved immediately. Seeing this scene, Lu Jiu and Lee Chenmo were both a little surprised. At first, they thought the spiritual grass powder had no effect at all, but within seconds, the bleeding stopped. Even the wounds healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Looking at this situation, Lee Chenmo was worried that if the wound healed completely, Beiji would become suspicious. Fortunately, the wound only healed a little and then stopped. Maybe it's because he only used a little bit of the powder. Seeing that the wound was still there and was much better than before, Lee Chenmo said in a low voice, "Wife, we shouldn't use this spiritual grass powder on others next time." Lu Jiu nodded after listening to his words. When she saw the wound healing so quickly, she was terrified that her secret would be revealed. Taking this incident as a lesson, she decided to dilute the spiritual grass powder with some water to reduce its efficiency if she needs to use it in the future. After she put the powder into her own space, she went to change the hot water, while Lee Chenmo stayed to observe the man's condition. 30 minutes later, Beiji came back with Dr. Zai. Before entering the room, Lu Jiu heard Dr. Zai scolding, "Stop dragging me, I'm not a pig, I can walk on my own." "Doctor, I'm sorry for offending you, but my brother is dying, can you walk faster?" "If you keep dragging me like this, I will die from exhaustion before your brother dies." Hearing their voices getting closer, Lee Chenmo stood up and waited with his wife. Not long after, Dr. Zai walked into the room, followed by Beiji. As soon as he entered the room, Dr. Zai's eyes became sharp and he walked towards the bed in large strides. He put the medicine box on the bedside, sat on the edge of the bed, and checked the unconscious man's pulse. Although Beiji was anxious, he did not dare to disturb when Dr. Zai examined his brother. After checking the pulse and wound condition, Dr. Zai nodded. He turned to look at Lee Chenmo and said, "The wound is not deep. After he was given first aid, his condition stabilized. Young man, you are not bad." Hearing Dr. Zai's praise, Lee Chenmo just smiled and said nothing. Dr. Zai was used to the indifferent attitude of the Li family's men, so he didn't pay much attention to Li Chenmo's lack of reaction. He took out a bottle of medicine from the medicine box, applied some to the wound, and then bandaged the wound. After that, he washed his hands with the water prepared by Lu Jiyu and packed up the medicine box. Afterward, he handed the medicine to Beiji and said, "Apply this medicine once a day. Clean the wound with alcohol or white wine, and do not let the wound get wet until it scabs." Beiji took the medicine, and before he could say his thanks, Dr. Zai extended his hand and said, 3 yuan. Being suddenly interrupted, Beiji was stunned. He looked at Dr. Zai with questioning eyes. Seeing him standing there doing nothing, Dr. Zai frowned and said, "You don't expect me to give you medicine for free, do you? You have to pay me for medicine and consultation fees." After listening to his words, Beiji understood the situation. He quickly took out his purse, handed the money to Dr. Zai and said, "Of course I must pay for it. Thank you for your help, doctor." Dr. Zai took the money and said, "You're welcome, I'll take my leave now." Looking at Dr. Zai's limping leg, Lu Jiu said, "Husband, I will send Dr. Zai off." Li Chenmo nodded at her and said, "All right." Following Dr. Zai, Lu Jiu took out a small bottle of tonic wine from her space. Although he is a doctor, Dr. Zai still needs to work in the fields to earn work points. As an old man living alone, he needs to do everything by himself. Therefore, it is normal for him to have some minor illnesses as he gets older. When they reached the front yard gate, Lu Jiu said, "Dr. Zai, I brew some tonic wine. Please have a try." Hearing her words, Dr. Zai stopped and looked at her. He raised his eyebrows and said, "Little girl, I don't have money to pay you." "Dr. Zai, we disturb you so early in the morning, so please accept this small gift as a token of my gratitude," Lu Jiu said with a smile. Dr. Zai no longer refused and took the tonic wine. "Thank you." After he left, Lu Jiu locked the door before returning to the house. Since neither she nor her husband could sleep, she went to the kitchen to prepare breakfast. She had just put a pot of water on the stove when she saw her husband walk into the kitchen. "Husband, do you want to sleep a little longer? I can take you to my space," she asked. Li Chenmo hugged his wife, leaned over and kissed her and said, "There is no need. I'm going to feed the pigs first." "Okay, what do you want for breakfast?" she asked again. Li Chenmo glanced at his wife thoughtfully. Lu Jiu thought he wouldn't say anything, but after a while she heard him say, "How about chicken porridge?" "All right." After kissing his wife again, Li Chenmo went to the pig pen to feed the pigs and clean the pen. Now that Beiji and his brother were here, Lu Jiu decided to make more breakfast today. In addition to chicken porridge, she also prepared steamed buns, scallion pancakes, tea eggs, and fried sausages. While she was busy in the kitchen, Beiji sat on the chair next to the bed and sighed. He looked at his cousin's pale face and said, "I shouldn't have let you do this. How should I tell your mother about your situation now?" While he was lost in thought, he suddenly smelled the aroma of scallion pancakes. In an instant, his saliva pooling inside his mouth. Normally, he would have breakfast at home at this time, but due to the sudden situation, he didn't even return to Huzi's place, let alone his own home. Fortunately, they were near Li Chenmo's house when they were attacked. Otherwise, his cousin might have died on the road. He clenched his fists tightly as he thought of those people. He recognized one of them as the right-hand man of the leader of the Black Hawk group. Recently, because their business has been affected by Huzi's group, they always cause trouble. Huzi thought that as long as he avoided their territory, there was nothing they could do. Unexpectedly, they were more courageous than they imagined. They even dared to stab one of their men. It seems the rumors about the Black Hawk group's backers are true. Unless they are protected by powerful people, it is impossible for them to dare to attack people so openly. When the sun rises from the horizon, Dong Li and Dong Huang wake up. When they walked to the backyard, they found someone in an empty room. Because Beiji was thinking about his cousin's matters, his face looked very scary. As soon as Dong Huang saw him, she let out a scream. "Ah!" Hearing her scream, Beiji was startled and almost fell off his chair. He turned his head and saw a girl looking at him in fear and a boy looking at him with wary eyes. Although Beiji had never met them, he guessed that both of them were Li Chenmo's family members. So Beiji calmed down his heartbeat and said with a friendly smile, "Hello, little friends." Although Dong Huang was surprised, she calmed down after confirming that Beiji has no bad intentions. She patted her chest and said with a sigh, "Uncle, do you know that people can be scared to death? I was almost scared to death by you." Beiji chuckled when he heard Dong Huang say these mature words in her childish voice. Unlike his sister, Dongli did not relax his vigilance when facing a stranger. He pulled his sister behind him and stared at Beiji without blinking. He observed him from head to toe and asked, "Uncle, who are you?" Beiji was startled when he saw the aggression in his eyes. Judging from his appearance, the boy was 10 years old at most. How could he have such eyes at such a young age? Before Beiji could speak, he heard Lu Jiu's voice. "Zyro Lei, Zyro Huang, go and wash up quickly. We will have breakfast after your foster father comes back from the pig pen." Hearing her voice, Dong Lei and Dong Huang's expressions changed instantly as smiles appeared on their faces. They ignored Beiji and walked towards the backyard while saying in unison, "Good morning, foster mother." This time, Beiji was stunned by their words. Li Chenmo and Lu Jiu are both young and obviously in good health. Why did they adopt 2 children? Beiji was confused, but he didn't dare to ask. After all, this is someone else's business, and he was already disturbing others with his own affairs at this time. 30 minutes later, Li Chenmo returned from the pig pen with Li Lingyun. After washing their hands, the two went to see Beiji's brother. Seeing them coming in, Beiji stood up and said, "Brother Lei, Boss Ling." Since Li Lingyun is known as one of the pig farm bosses, Beiji always calls him Boss Ling. Therefore, Beiji was shocked when he learned that Li Lingyun was Li Chenmo's second brother. At first, he thought Li Lingyun was as ruthless as the rumors said due to his involvement with the underground group before. But after getting along with him, he knew that although he was indeed a cunning man and was cruel to his enemies, he was a reasonable person and treated his family and friends well. Li Chenmo and Li Lingyun both nodded to Beiji, then walked to the bed. Li Lingyun sat by the bed, checked the man's wound and said, "Third brother, I will inform Huzi about this later. For now, just let him stay at your place." Li Chenmo nodded and said, "MHMM. Second brother, do you think this matter has anything to do with the situation in the city?" After listening to his words, Li Lingyun fell into deep thought. After a long silence, he finally shook his head and said, "I don't think so. If they did this, it would be impossible for Beiji and his brother to escape alive. Maybe this is just a conflict between groups due to the business territory." Beiji stood aside, stunned by their words. He had difficulty understanding what they were saying. After holding it back for a while, his curiosity finally won out and he couldn't help but ask, "Brother Li, Boss Ling, what are you two talking about?" Li Chenmo turned to look at him and said, "Beiji, you will go with my second brother in a moment and tell Huzi about your brother's condition. As for your brother, let him stay with me for now." Beiji nodded and said, "I understand. Thank you, Brother Lei." Li Chenmo nodded at him and said, "No problem. Let's go have breakfast first." After making their decision, the three of them left the room and came to the living room. When they walked into the living room, Lu Jiu and the children were already waiting for them. Lu Jiu saw them coming and said, "Second brother, you are here." Li Lingyun nodded to her and said with a smile, "Third sister-in-law, I'm here to leech off your food again." Hearing this, Lu Jiu let out a chuckle and said, "Second brother, you are always welcome in my home." Dong Li and Dong Huang also came forward and greeted him. "Good morning, second uncle." "Good morning." Li Lingyun patted their heads and sat down next to Dong Li. Seeing Beiji standing awkwardly at the door, Li Chenmo asked, "Beiji, what are you doing standing there? Take a seat." Coming back to his senses, Beiji walked over and said, "Okay." After everyone sat down, Lu Jiu served a bowl of chicken porridge for her husband and adopted children, and another bowl for herself. "Beiji, just think of this place as your home. Don't be too restrained," Lu Jiu said. Hearing her words, Beiji smiled at her and said, "Thank you, sister-in-law." Even though she told him to treat their house as his own home, Beiji still felt embarrassed. At first he thought he would be too embarrassed to enjoy the food, but the moment he tasted the food, all embarrassment disappeared instantly. Coupled with the feeling of hunger, the meal tasted better than usual. Lu Jiu watched Beiji stuffing food into his mouth because of hunger and sighed. At this moment, she really hopes that time can pass faster and economic reform can happen as soon as possible. Only after economic reform can people's lives get better and better. After breakfast, Beiji left with Li Lingyun, and the children went to school. While Li Chenmo was washing dishes in the backyard, Lu Jiu went to harvest the vegetables. Since they are watered daily with water from the space, the vegetables grow quickly, and at least 45% of the total production can be harvested every day. The quantity of these vegetables is enough for her to sell to Huzi. Soon her husband came to help her. 2 hours later, after harvesting the vegetables, Lu Jiu put everything into her own space. Thinking about the incoming summer, she wondered whether the mushrooms and herbs in the mountains were ready for harvest. While resting, Lu Jiu looked at her husband and asked, "Husband, do you have plans for later?" Li Chenmo took a sip of watermelon juice and said, "No, do you want to visit the town?" "Husband, I want to go to the mountains to see if I can find some medicinal materials or edible fungi. Can you accompany me?" she asked. "Of course, if you want to go to the mountain, we'd better leave now," Li Chenmo agreed readily. Hearing his words, Lu Jiu felt happy. She quickly changed her clothes and went to the woodshed to get 2 bamboo baskets and 2 hoes. After locking the door, the two walked from the backyard to the mountain, since Zyro Li discovered mushrooms at the foot of the mountain last time. Some villagers have also gone there to pick mushrooms, so after a while, there weren't many mushrooms left in that area. As they walked through the foothills, they saw several children picking wild berries and decided to go further. After walking for another 30 minutes, they finally entered the mountain. The moment they stepped into the mountains, the temperature changed. Due to the lush vegetation, the temperature inside the mountain forest is lower than outside. Although it was a bit humid, Lu Jiu felt much more comfortable than the hot temperature. As they walked, she would stop to forage and share her knowledge of medicinal or edible plants with her husband. With his help, the speed at which they collected plants increased several times. As long as the basket is filled, Lu Jiu will put it in her space and continue collecting. When they reached the depths of the mountain, Li Chenmo said, "Wife, stay behind me. We have gone too deep. There are wild boars and wolves in this area." After hearing his words, Lu Jiu did not dare to take it lightly and walked quickly behind her husband. She held his hand and said, "Husband, if we encounter a wild animal, I will bring both of us into my space." Li Chenmo looked at his wife and smiled. He patted her head and said, "Don't worry, I won't let anything happen to you." Lu Jiu nodded and said with a smile, "Husband, I'm not worried, I believe you." After a brief conversation, the two continued walking and found several wild ginseng and truffle mushrooms. They even found a cluster of Ganoderma lucidum, which grew to a height of 1.6 meters. In addition, they also captured some pheasants and hares. When it was almost noon, the two entered Lu Jiu's space to have lunch and rest. After the two took a nap, they came out of the space and left the forest. In addition to mushrooms, wild fruits, and potatoes, they also found buckwheat, barley, and quinoa. As she puts everything into her space, the new plants were registered in the space's store. She can now plant those crops after she gets the seeds. Before leaving the mountain, they filled their baskets with some mushrooms, wild fruits, and bamboo shoots. When the villagers saw the two of them coming back from the mountain carrying a basket full of food, they looked at them with envy. A villager saw them passing by and asked, "Jiu, have you and your husband gone into the mountains together?" Hearing her name being called, Lu Jiu stopped and turned to look at the villagers. She knew they were prohibited from entering the mountains, so she said, "Hello, auntie. My husband and I just came back from the bamboo forest. We are picking bamboo shoots." The villagers glanced at their baskets and nodded when they saw a basket of bamboo shoots in Li Chenmo's basket. Although it is common for villagers to go to pick bamboo shoots, not many people are willing to go. Not only is the road long, but it is also difficult to walk. If they are not careful, they may fall into the pit. It's really not worth getting hurt just for some bamboo shoots. So after satisfying their curiosity, the villagers said nothing. But the next second an old woman said, "The bamboo shoots in spring are indeed the most delicious. My grandson has been craving it for a while. It's a pity that no one in our family dares to go to the bamboo forest to pick it." Hearing her words, Lu Jiu smiled, as if she didn't understand what she meant. When she didn't say anything, the old woman added while looking at her meaningfully, "Aya, I wonder if some kind-hearted person would give me some so that my grandson can have a taste to fulfill his craving." The woman glanced at Lu Jiu and was surprised to see that she still looked like she hadn't heard anything. Her words were blatant enough that everyone must have understood her underlying meanings. As someone of a younger generation, after hearing her saying this, Lu Jiu should at least give her 1 or 2 bamboo shoots to keep her face. Lu Jiu stood beside her husband and waited for the old woman to finish speaking before saying, "Aunt Lin, it's getting late. My husband and I have to go back before the children come back from school. We will say our goodbye first." Aunt Lin nodded and said, "Then go back quickly and don't let the children wait for you." After that, Lu Jiu glanced at her husband, and they walked away under the old woman's gaze. After they left, the old woman said in embarrassment and anger, "What an ignorant girl. I have made it so clear, but she still pretends to be stupid. It's just 1 or 2 bamboo shoots. Is it necessary to be so stingy?" Aunt Lin listened to her words and said, Sister-in-law, since you said it was just 1 or 2 bamboo shoots, there is no need to be so angry. Instead of embarrassing yourself by asking others, why don't you go back and ask your son to pick them?" Hearing her words, the old woman blurted out, "You make it sound like it's easy to go to the bamboo forest. Who doesn't know that the road is slippery and full of pits? If you're not careful, you might fall into a pit and break your leg." "Sister-in-law, since you know that bamboo shoots are difficult to pick, why do you still make it look like they are easy to pick?" Aunt Lin asked. The old woman was stunned by her words and looked at her with wide eyes. Before she could speak, Aunt Lin said, "Sister-in-law, everyone works hard so that they have food to eat. It's wrong for you to act as if you have the right to get something from others just because you are older than others. No one owes you anything. What's more, your family has never had anything to do with the Li family or the Lu family. So, based on what you ask Lu Jiu to give you bamboo shoots she picked," Aunt Lin added with a smile and meaningful gaze. After Aunt Lin finished speaking, everyone nodded and began to teach the woman how to be an elder. "Sister Lin is right. Sister-in-law, you can't just ask for things from others. It's okay to exchange things, but if you ask for them for free, that's too much. What's the difference between bullying your juniors and this? Sister-in-law, if your grandson really wants to eat it, just ask your son to pick it. Your son is still young and strong. It won't be a problem for him to go to the bamboo forest." "Well, if your son can't do it, then bring something and exchange it for bamboo shoots. Jiu is a kind girl. I believe she will agree to exchange with you as long as it is reasonable." Although everyone only said it once, due to the number of people sitting together, it was enough to leave the old woman speechless. She was angry because of embarrassment, stood up and left without saying a word. After she left, Aunt Lin snorted and said, "Humph, she is so shameless to always use her age to take advantage of others." The others laughed after hearing her words and changed the subject. At this time, Beiji and Li Lingyun were sitting opposite Huzi in his house. In addition to the 3 of them, there were also Ding Sha and the rest of Huzi's subordinates. When they heard what happened to Beiji's cousin, their faces darkened and their expressions became solemn. After a while, Huzi said, "Boss Ling, thank you for telling me this." After listening to his words, Li Lingyun smiled and said, "Cousin, we are a family, just call me by name. Also, there is no need to be so polite with each other." When Huzi heard this, he rolled his eyes and said, "Li Lingyun, I know you are shameless, but I didn't expect you to be this shameless." As soon as his words came out, Li Lingyun laughed. The solemn atmosphere was broken and became more relaxed as he said, "Cousin, thank you for your compliment." Seeing that nothing he said could affect him, Huzi ignored his words and said, "About those people." Before he finished speaking, Li Lingyun added, "Cousin, you don't have to worry about them. I have already informed my friend who works in the government. They will help us take care of them." Huzi was shocked after hearing his words. He knew that Li Lingyun must have some relationship with the people in the government. Otherwise, he would not have been able to avoid being arrested by the authorities for so many years. But he didn't expect that his connection would be so strong. The supporters of these people are not someone who they could offend. However, judging by Li Lingyun's words, he was quite sure that his people could handle those people's supporters. This proves that his connections are more powerful and authoritative than those people. Now that he has taken care of this matter, Huzi no longer insists on doing it himself and says, "Thank you." After discussing the matter, Li Lingyun returned to Zai village, while Beiji returned home and told his uncle and aunt about his cousin's condition. At the same time in Zai village, Suanna was washing clothes in the front yard when she saw Pan Magia pass by. When she saw how beautiful Pan Magia was, Suanna clenched her fists full of jealousy. She thought that by giving herself to De Gao, she could control him. Unexpectedly, not only did he not listen to her at all, but he also threatened to share her with Zyro Gao if she dared to go against him. When De Gao touched her, she tried her best to resist the urge to vomit. She couldn't imagine what it would be like if De Gao really gave her to Zyro Gao. She was originally one of the most beautiful female-educated youths in the Zai village, but now she has fallen to this point, while Pan Magia and Lu Jiu have gained the love of the Li brothers and lived a happy life. Based on what, all of what they have now should be hers. Just as she was deep in thought, she heard Zyro Gao's voice from behind, and then a hand was put on her shoulder. "Sister-in-law, do you need help?" Hearing his words and feeling his hand caressing her shoulder, Suanna felt a chill down her spine and goosebumps on her arms. When she came to her senses, she quickly moved her body to avoid Zyro Gao's touch. She suddenly stood up and took a few steps back, keeping her distance from him. She glared at him and said in disgust, Zyro Gao, I am your brother's wife, how dare you touch me? Zyro Gao seemed to have heard a very funny joke and laughed loudly. Sister-in-law, my brother has promised to share you with me. Why can't I touch you when you are mine? Hearing his words, Suanna's eyes were full of disgust and hatred. She hated Lu Jiu for plotting against her and forcing her to marry into the Gao family. She hated Da Gao and Zyro Gao for ruining her innocence and ruining her and Li Chenmo's future. But what she hates most is Zyro Yigyun, who deceived her. If he drove over as soon as he received her telegram, he could arrive before her wedding and prevent this from happening. He must have been lying to her and had no intention of saving her. She had done so much for Zyro Yiking, how could he treat her like this? Seeing Zyro Gao's lustful eyes, Suanna quickly looked around, trying to look for someone to help her. The moment she saw Han Yuheng, her eyes lit up. Before Zyro Gao could stop her, Suanna rushed to the door and shouted, "Team Leader Han." As soon as Han Yuheng heard her voice, he stopped his steps and turned to see who was calling him. Seeing that it was Suanna, he frowned and asked, "Comrade Su, what's wrong?" Suanna seemed to see her savior, walked up to him quickly and said anxiously, "Team Leader, I have something to tell you. Can we go to your place to talk?" Han Yuheng glanced at Zyro Gao, who was watching them from the fence, and said, "I'm afraid I don't have time now. How about coming to my house in the afternoon?" Suanna's heart sank after hearing his words, while Zyro Gao grinned. Seeing the change in their expressions, Han Yuheng had already guessed what was going on, but he's not one to put himself in trouble to save others. What's more, now he's going to meet his ex-lover. Therefore, he had no intention of helping her at all. Seeing that she didn't speak, Han Yuheng just nodded to her and continued walking to the abandoned granary. Suanna saw him leaving without looking back, and when she heard Zyro Gao's footsteps approaching, her heart tightened. After thinking about it, she decided to go find Da Gao. Although the chance of Da Gao protecting her is slim, it is better to take a gamble than to be violated by Zyro Gao. After making her decision, she ran north. Zyro Gao was startled by her sudden action. When he came to his senses, it was too late to catch up with her. Although he was a good-for-nothing, he was not stupid enough to chase his sister-in-law in public. Since she was going back to their home, he would just wait for her. He wants to see how she escapes. When Zyro Gao was convinced that everything was under his control, Suanna kept running as if being chased by a beast. When the villagers saw her running in panic, one of them asked, "Comrade Su, what's going on?" Suanna's eyes flashed when she saw that the person asking was a villager who was famous for her love of gossiping. She stopped running and gasped for breaths. After calming down for a moment, she said with fear on her face, "Aunt Ma, I'm here to see Da Gao. Do you know where he is?" Hearing her words, the villagers looked at each other. Everyone knows how unwilling she was when she married Da Gao. Since she was looking for him in panic, something must have happened at home. Da Gao is inspecting the farmland in the north area. "Comrade Su, what's going on? Did something happen at home?" a villager asked curiously. Suanna hesitated for a moment and said, "No, nothing happened. It's just that Zyro Gao was at home, so I..." Seemingly realizing that she had made a mistake, Suanna bit her lip and stopped talking. After a moment she added, "Don't mind what I said. Thank you for telling me where Da Gao is." After saying that, she turned around and quickened her pace. Seeing her escape, the villagers looked at each other with knowing expressions. Combining these hints, they can guess that Zyro Gao must have wanted to do something to Suanna, causing her to run to her husband for help. After she could no longer be seen, a villager suddenly came over and said in a low voice, looking at Comrade Su's panic, "Zyro Gao must be trying to do something to her." Hearing her words, another villager added, "I think he might want to violate her. Otherwise, how could she run away like she was being chased by a beast? Also, did you notice that there was something wrong with her clothes and hair? She looks so unkempt." When they heard this, their eyes widened in surprise, as if they had just discovered some shocking secret. Heavens, if what you said is true, then Zyro Gao is a beast. No matter how much he likes her, she is his sister-in-law now. How dare he touch his sister-in-law? This is so immoral. I think what Auntie said is possible. After all, who doesn't know that Grandma Gao's grandson is worse than a beast? Maybe he thought he could share a wife with his brother and save the bride price. Another villager said with a sneer. The villagers looked at each other in disbelief. If their thoughts were true, then they couldn't let Zyro Gao stay in their village. If other villages find out about this, their village's reputation will be ruined. After coming to this conclusion, everyone stood up and went to see what was going on. Since Suanna is going to find Da Gao, then they should go and have a look. They will never let a morally corrupt person like Zyro Gao stay in their village. Meanwhile, in the north area, Suanna slowed down her pace. She is waiting for the villagers to follow her. Although she looked down on these villagers, she also knew that some people had very quick minds and would be able to draw the conclusion she wanted. Thinking of the way Zyro Gao looked at her, Suanna gritted her teeth and said, "Zyro Gao, you can only blame yourself for wanting to violate me. Since we can't live peacefully, one of us must leave, and that person is you." After counting the time, she quickened her pace and made her hair look messier. Not long after, she finally found De Gao. Unlike when he was lazy before, today he started to work seriously. At this time, he was watering the fields with other villagers, and his clothes were soaked with sweat. De Gao. Hearing his wife's voice, De Gao stopped what he was doing and raised his head. The moment he saw his wife, a smile appeared on his face. Although he threatened her with his brother, he never actually intended to share his wife with anyone. After sleeping with Suanna, De Gao's feelings for her changed from lust to more genuine affection and concern. He really wanted to have a good life with her and their future children. When De Gao saw her coming, he put down the bucket and walked over, but when he saw her appearance, his heart sank. He quickened his pace and asked, "Wife, what happened?" Seeing the clear worry in his eyes, a smile flashed in Anna's eyes. It seems that she is going to win this bet. When she was 1 meter away from De Gao, Suanna threw herself into his arms while sobbing. De Gao was startled by her reaction. He stood there motionless and asked, "Wife, why are you crying? Say something, ah." After a while, Suanna finally stopped sobbing and said, "De Gao, it's Zyro Gao. He. Hearing his wife mention his brother, De Gao's heart sank and he coldly asked, "What about him?" He wanted to violate me," Suanna said as she burst out crying. De Gao was stunned by her words as if he was struck by lightning. After a while, he understood what his wife meant and roared angrily, "This beast, I'm going to kill him. How dare he touch my wife?" Hiding in his arms, Suanna raised the corner of her mouth, but continued to act pitiful and say, "Husband, you can't kill him." When he heard her calling her husband, De Gao's anger calmed down a little and asked, "Why, are you feeling heartbroken for him?" Suanna raised her head and looked at him in disbelief. "What nonsense are you talking about? I'm just worried about you. What should I do if you kill him and go to jail?" De Gao was stunned by her words and said, "Wife, you." When the villagers arrived, they saw what was happening and heard what they said. Without even asking for the truth, they concluded that Zyro Gao was guilty. Seeing the villagers, Suanna continued her performance and said, "Husband, let's separate our families. I can't live with someone who wants to violate me. If you don't want to separate the family, then divorce me." Before De Gao could speak, a villager interrupted him. "Comrade Su, you are too kind. It is best to drive this kind of person out of our village. Otherwise, he will ruin the reputation of our village." After hearing what the villagers said, everyone nodded and supported her suggestion. Although De Gao was very angry with his brother, he still didn't want his brother to be driven out of the village. After all, he still wants his brother to take care of his grandma. But judging from the current situation, if he disagrees with the villagers, maybe they will kick him out as well. And based on what his wife just said, she would not agree to follow him. She might even want a divorce. Compared to his useless brother, his wife is smarter and more diligent. More importantly, she is beautiful and comes from a good family. As long as he treats her well, he believes she will help him obtain citizenship. After weighing the pros and cons, De Gao finally said, "I, De Gao, will never let that beast ruin the reputation of our village. I will drive him out myself." As soon as he finished speaking, he strode towards his home, followed by the villagers. Suanna stood there, looking at his back with a smile. After a moment, she quickly controlled her expression and followed them. Not long after, they arrived at Gao's house. Zyro Gao heard a series of footsteps coming from the front yard and sneered. Thinking it was Suanna, he said confidently, "Suanna, be good and don't do anything funny. As long as you serve me well and make me happy, I will let you taste the so-called heaven on earth." As soon as he finished speaking, the door was kicked open by De Gao with a loud sound. Zyro Gao was startled by the sudden noise and almost fell off his chair. When he saw his brother standing in front of him, looking at him with fierce eyes, he felt chills running down his spine. Sensing the murderous intent in his brother's eyes, Zyro Gao asked tremblingly, Brother, why are you back so early?" Hearing this, De Gao sneered and asked, "What, you don't want me to come back early so you can violate my wife? You beast, how dare you touch your sister-in-law?" As soon as he finished speaking, De Gao kicked his brother in the chest. Out of anger, he failed to control his strength and kicked Zyro Gao with all of his strength. Due to the kick, Zyro Gao rolled on the ground and hit the wall. The next moment, De Gao had rushed over and punched Zyro Gao in the face as if he was possessed. In less than a minute, Zyro Gao's face was swollen like a pig, his nose was broken, and blood was running from his nose and mouth. Seeing that De Gao had no intention of stopping, the villagers quickly stopped him. De Gao, stop fighting. If you continue, you will kill him. It took several people to pull him away from his brother. After a moment, De Gao glared at his younger brother and said furiously, Zyro Gao, we will separate our family, you can leave. From today on, you are no longer my brother. Zyro Gao was stunned when he heard his brother's words. He raised his head and looked at his brother in disbelief. Only then did he realize that in addition to his brother and Su Anna, there were many villagers who looked at him with obvious disgust in their eyes. Thinking of what he said just now, Zyro Gao knew that he was doomed. He crawled to his older brother and begged, Brother, you can't disown me. You promised our mother you would take care of me. De Gao closed his eyes and said through gritted teeth, I promised our mother that I would take care of you, but you want to violate my wife. If I tolerate you, what will my wife think of me? What will people think of me? You said you wanted to share your wife with me. I did it just because you allowed me to do it. How can you blame me now? This isn't the first time we've shared a woman, Zyro Gao said in panic. After hearing his words, the villagers took a breath, and their eyes suddenly changed when they looked at De Gao. De Gao realized that the situation was not good for him, so he raised his hand and slapped his brother hard. You beast, how dare you talk nonsense and tarnish the reputation of your sister-in-law and me? I never said those words. De Gao roared at the top of his lungs, as if just being louder would make people believe his words. Seeing his angry look, the villagers didn't know who was telling the truth and who was telling lies. Not knowing who to trust, they looked at Su Anna. At this time, she stood at the back of the crowd with her hands clasped in front of her chest. She stared at De Gao with wide eyes, full of shock and disbelief. Her pale lips trembled and she muttered, No way, he wouldn't do this to me. Zyro Gao must be lying. After hearing her words, the villagers chose to believe De Gao and condemned Zyro Gao. You beast, not only do you want to violate your sister-in-law, you also want to slander your brother. Our village cannot allow people like you to stay here. Get out of our village. Following the first person, the second and third people began to drive Zyro Gao out of their village. In just 5 minutes, the room was filled with angry shouts from villagers, demanding Zyro Gao leave Zai village. When Zyro Gao saw this, his face turned pale with fright. He looked at his older brother and begged, Brother, please save me. Brother, I don't want to be kicked out of our village. Upon hearing his plea, a villager said, If you are not willing to leave by yourself, we will report you to the authorities. This time, even De Gao was stunned. He just wants to get rid of his brother so he can't hurt his wife. He had no intention of sending his brother to prison. It is better to be kicked out of their village than to be thrown into jail. So he looked at his younger brother and said, Zyro Gao, I'll give you some money. You should pack your things and leave. Zyro Gao's heart dropped when he heard his brother's harsh words. He looked at his brother with eyes full of anger and hatred. He couldn't believe that his brother, who had grown up with him from the moment he was born, would choose to trust a woman he had known for less than a year. Ha 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 ha! Suddenly, Zyro Gao laughed wildly, surprising everyone. He stood up and stared at everyone with red eyes. He pointed his finger at the villagers and said, I will remember all of you. One day, I will repay you tenfold for what you have done today. After saying that, he pushed away the villagers and left the room. When he walked past Su Anna, he stopped and whispered, Bitch, I underestimate you. Just wait, I will definitely make you beg under me. As soon as he finished speaking, he took one last look at Su Anna and left without looking back. After a while, the villagers came back to their senses. Thinking of the way Zyro Gao looked at them just now, they felt fear in their hearts. They looked around, trying to find comfort and confidence in each other. After a while, everyone left De Gao's house, and only he and Su Anna were left in the living room. Seeing the stunned De Gao, Su Anna sneered in her heart, but when she touched De Gao's hand, a look of worry appeared on her face. Husband, what should we do now? Feeling his touch, De Gao gritted his teeth and said, Wife, don't worry, I won't let him hurt you. After saying this, he went to Han Yuheng to inform him of the matter and separate the family. When she was alone, Su Anna heard the uneasy groans of Grandma Gao in the room. She walked to her room and looked at her from the door while frowning. She covered her nose with her palm and said coldly, Old bitch, don't worry, this is just the beginning. I will definitely repay what you have done to me with interest. Hearing her words, Grandma Gao could only stare at her with hatred and make a sound in her throat. Unfortunately, no matter how loud she screamed, Su Anna just glanced at her and ignored her as if she was a dead person. Grandma Gao lay motionless on the bed, feeling suffocated, and finally fainted from anger. in less than half an hour. The entire Zai village knew about Zyro Gao's violation of Su Anna, which angered De Gao and the villagers. When Han Yuheng came back from the abandoned granary, he found De Gao waiting for him in his house. When Zai village became lively because of this incident, Lu Jiyu was pickling bamboo shoots in the front yard, and Li Chenmo was teaching the children in the living room. Just after she sealed the last vat with cloth and tied it with hemp rope, she heard Pan Meijia's voice, "Jiyu, are you at home?" After washing her hands, Lu Jiyu went to open the door. Seeing her friend's excitement, she was surprised and asked, "Meijia, why are you here so early?" Looking at her friend's confused expression, Pan Meijia knew that her friend might not know what happened in their village just now. He pulled her into the house and said, "Jiyu, don't tell me that you know nothing about what just happened in our village." Lu Jiyu raised her eyebrows and asked, "What's going on? Did something big happen?" Hearing her question, Pan Meijian nodded and said, "De Gao and the villagers just drove Zyro Gao out of our village." Lu Jiyu was stunned and asked, "Why so suddenly? Did he do something?" "As far as I know, he tried to violate Su Anna, but she managed to escape and told her husband. When the villagers found out about this, they were very angry and asked the Gao family to drive him away to avoid tarnishing the reputation of our village," Pan Meijia explained. This time, Lu Jiyu was shocked. She didn't expect that someone would be so bold as to do such a thing, not to mention that rape is a serious crime and may even be punished by death. Just the fact that a brother-in-law would violate his sister-in-law is already a challenge to social morality. Looking at her expression, Pan Meijian knew what her friend was thinking. She closed the door and whispered, "But judging from Zyro Gao's words, I dare say that he must have been slandered by Su Anna. Although he may have such an intention, he may not dare to do this without his brother's permission because he fears his brother the most. I heard that the two of them shared a woman before. Therefore, it is not impossible for De Gao to agree to share his wife with Zyro Gao, but with Su Anna's character, it was impossible for her to do nothing and accept it. This may be her retaliation against the Gao brothers," she added. Lu Jiyu looked at her friend and asked, "Meijia, how do you know so much about their situations?" Hearing her words, Pan Meijia said proudly, "That is because I have been paying attention to Su Anna's situation." "Why did you do that?" Lu Jiyu asked doubtfully. Pan Meijia sighed and said, "Ever since Huang Yuanfeng's incident, I have always paid attention to Su Anna's situation. If she plans to do bad things to you, at least we know beforehand and can be prepared. Who doesn't know how jealous she is of you and how obsessed she is with your husband?" Lu Jiyu was shocked when she heard her words. She knew that Pan Meijia was very kind to her, but she didn't expect that she would do it to this extent. At this moment, she finally realized that apart from her husband and family, the person who treated her the best was her best friend. Pan Meijia always cared about her, though she never said it out loud. She made every effort to ensure her safety and support her with her limited power and methods. Lu Jiyu felt her eyes were a little sore, hugged Pan Meijia and said, "Thank you, Meijia." Pan Meijia felt embarrassed to be hugged suddenly. She was not one to show her affection to the one she loved openly. Therefore, being hugged like this by her friends made her a little shy. She patted Lu Jiyu's back awkwardly and asked, "What's wrong? Why did you hug me all of a sudden?" After a while, Lu Jiyu finally controlled her emotions and let her go. She looked at her friend and said, "From now on, you are not only my best friend, but also my sister. I will share all the good things with you." Hearing her statement, Pan Meijia laughed and said, "Then I'll thank you in advance, my good sister." When Lu Jiyu heard this, she smiled wider and said, "Okay, let's go in and talk." After she locked the door, the two went to her bedroom and continued talking about Su Anna and gossiping about the neighboring villages. As for the Lu family, Mother Lu was peeling pine nuts in the living room when Wang Muxiao came over with a bowl of chicken soup. Mother Lu saw her coming and asked, "Muxiao, why are you moving around instead of resting?" Wang Muxiao put the chicken soup on the table and said, "Mother, I made chicken soup for dinner. This is for you and Father." Mother Lu looked at the steaming chicken soup and smiled. "If you want to drink chicken soup, just tell me. I can cook for you." "Mother, I'm fine now. I don't feel sick anymore. You don't have to worry about me." Not long after, Chen Anwen also came over with a bowl of braised fish. Mother Lu saw her and said with a smile, "Look at you two. Your father and I can prepare our own meals. Just save this for the kids." Putting the braised fish on the table, Chen Anwen sat down and said, "Mother, our Han caught some fish in the morning, so I made some braised fish for you and Father to eat." After saying that, she looked at Wang Muxiao and said, "Sister-in-law, I will give you a bowl later." Wang Muxiao likes braised fish and was very happy to hear her words. She nodded and said, I'll also give you a bowl of chicken soup. Let the children drink more to nourish their bodies. Chen Anwen nodded and said, then I would like to thank you on their behalf. Seeing that the two daughters-in-law had a good relationship, Mother Lu said with satisfaction, it's almost summer and the weather is getting hotter. Have you prepared thinner clothes for your husband and the children? Chen Anwen nodded and said, Jiu gave a bolt of fabric to us before, and I made a new set of clothes for the children and Ah Han. Their clothes from previous years are still in good condition. I have mended them and it will last for a few more years. That's good, Mother Lu nodded. After chatting with Mother Lu for a while, Chen Anwen and Wang Muxiao returned home to have dinner with their family before they went to Lu Jiu's house. When the sky darkened, Li Chenmo heard a knock on the gate of the front yard. Li Chenmo looked at his adopted children and said, get these done and go to bed. We'll continue the review tomorrow. Dong Li and Dong Huang nodded and said, yes, foster father. After saying that, Li Chenmo left the room and saw his wife about to open the door. He walked over and said, wife, I'll open the door, you go in. Lu Jiu thought for a while and nodded. Now that they have an injured person in their house, they can't be careless. Thinking about the worst possibility, she went to Beiji's cousin's room. If someone comes to check on him, she can hide him in her own space. After confirming that his wife had gone in, Li Chenmo went to open the door. As soon as the door opened, he saw two officers standing outside while wiping their sweat. An officer saw him and said, hello comrade, are you Li Chenmo? Li Chenmo looked at them, nodded and asked calmly, it's me. May I ask, what is your purpose in looking for me? Comrade Li, we received a report that you and your wife were involved in private transactions. Someone reported that you two were selling food. After hearing his words, Li Chenmo's eyes flashed for a moment and then returned to normal. He chuckled and said, I don't know who is so boring as to make such a false accusation. My wife and I are both upright citizens. We never break any rules and work hard to contribute to the country. The two officers looked at each other and saw the confusion in their eyes. Judging from the man's calm demeanor, the report appears to be a false accusation, but many experienced criminals appear to be good citizens, so they could not believe his word until they were sure it was a false accusation. Can we go in and have a look? Another officer asked. Of course, please come in, Li Chenmo said, walking aside to let them in. After closing the door, Li Chenmo led them into the house. The officers were shocked when they saw the lush vegetables in the yard. As soon as they entered the house, Lu Jiu heard their voices. She quickly brought Beiji's cousin into her own space, and then walked to the living room as if nothing happened. Li Chenmo saw her coming, walked up to her and said, Wife, these comrades came to investigate us because someone reported that we were involved in private transactions. Lu Jiu was stunned when she heard her husband's words. She looked at the officers and said in surprise, Comrades, is there any misunderstanding? My husband and I never sell or buy anything privately. If we need to buy something, we buy it from state-owned stores. I don't know who is so vicious to slander us. Both officers observed her and Li Chenmo carefully and found that their shocked and worried expressions were so real that they could not be fake. After a while, an officer asked, Comrade, can we check your house? Lu Jiu nodded and agreed readily, of course. We have nothing to hide, so please feel free to check. After hearing her words and seeing her confident attitude, the officers already took their side and believed the report was a false accusation. Despite their personal opinions, they checked each room first before going to the backyard and finally the kitchen. Seeing the large and tidy kitchen, their impressions of Lu Jiu and Li Chenmo increase. Judging from their house's condition, they are hard-working and honest villagers. They opened the jar and saw that the jar was filled with coarse grains. Some jars contained only small amounts of salt and sugar. The oil is only half a small bottle, which is equivalent to a few spoons. Based on their food supply, the officers believe they could not have been selling food as they are accused of doing. If they really sell food, their supply should be more than this. After the inspection, an officer said, Comrade Li, sister-in-law, thank you for your cooperation with us. We have found no evidence of personal transactions in your house and will handle the report in accordance with regulations. So we won't be taken away? Lu Jiu asked. The officer nodded and said, yes, we will definitely punish those who lie. Lu Jiu nodded and said, thank you comrades for upholding justice for us. The officers felt bad that they had been wrongly accused and said with a smile, sister-in-law, this is what we should do. Comrades, how about drinking a cup of water before going back? Li Chenmo asked. They were indeed thirsty, so the officers agreed and followed him to the living room, while Lu Jiu went to the kitchen and took out a jar of barley water from her own space. She came to the living room carrying a jar and several bamboo cups. Li Chenmo saw her coming, walked over and took the jar from her hand. He poured a cup for the officers and said, "Comrade, this is barley water made by my wife herself. Please try it." The officers expressed their gratitude for the hospitality. While it's not uncommon, not many people are willing to use barley to make this drink. They prefer barley as food to fill their stomachs. "Thank you, Comrade Lei." After delivering the drinks, Lu Jiu returned to the backyard. Li Chenmo stayed to chat with the officers until they finished drinking the barley water. When they reached the door, the officers looked at the fresh vegetables and couldn't help but swallow their saliva. Sensing their gazes, Li Chenmo picked some eggplants and lettuce and handed them to them. After receiving the fresh vegetables, the officers said sheepishly, "Comrade Lei, thank you. We will definitely warn that person so that he will not dare to lie again." Li Chenmo nodded and said, "Then I'll trouble you." The officers waved their hands and said, "No trouble." When Lu Jiu heard the sound of the door opening and closing, she took Beiji's cousin out of her own space and put him back in the room near the backyard. Not long after, Li Chenmo came in and said, "Wife, they have left." Lu Jiu nodded and said, "Husband, who do you think will report us?" After hearing his wife's words, Li Chenmo pondered for a moment and said, "I think this may have something to do with those who targeted Huzi's group. They may have discovered our relationship with Huzi and wanted to cut off Huzi's supply." When Lu Jiu heard this, her face turned pale. She held her husband's hand and said, "Husband, in this case, let's stop doing this business, okay? We have enough money, there is no need to risk our own safety." After listening to her words, Li Chenmo smiled and patted her head. "Wife, don't worry. Since the officers have come to check our house and found no evidence, when they receive a report about us next time, they won't take it seriously." Seeing that his wife was still worried, he added, "At least for a few months, we will be safe. Let 1d5f3, let 1d6 9b, let 1d5f2, let 1d556, let 1d6a0, let 1d6at. Let 1d6 let 1d6 let 1d4 Although there were still some doubts in her heart, Lu Jiu chose to believe in her husband. She nodded and said, "Okay, then I'll listen to your arrangements." Since it was still some time before Chen Anwen and the others came over, Lu Jiu took her husband to her own space after returning to the bedroom. The two took a shower, slept for a while, and then got up to make the pre-order foods. For today's pre-order, Lu Jiu decided to let Pan Magia and her sister-in-law cook what is on the regular menu. As for herself, she prepares those on the special menu. She must make 150 fruit pies, 80 cream puffs, 100 egg custards, 25 Peking ducks, 100 macarons, and 150 churros. Although the amount of the order was small, the food took a lot of time to prepare. Since Li Chenmo's cooking skills were only good enough to make home-cooked meals, he couldn't help his wife make the pre-order snacks. While Lu Jiu was busy in the kitchen, he went to clean up the house. Although there was no dust in the space, he still mopped the floor and changed the bedsheets and curtains. He also helped her wash the clothes before he went to the bedroom to read. After working in the kitchen for several hours, Lu Jiu finally packed the last Peking duck and put it into a bamboo basket. When she walked into the bedroom, she saw her husband had fallen asleep with a book on his chest. She walked to the bed, took the book from her husband's chest, and placed it on the bedside table. She leaned over and kissed his forehead, then went to take a shower. After taking a shower, Lu Jiu felt refreshed, humming a song while drying her hair with a towel. When she came out of the bathroom, she saw her husband had woken up and was sitting on the bed. Li Chenmo saw his wife and asked, "Wife, do you want to sleep for a while?" "No need, husband, thank you for helping me wash clothes and clean the house," she said and gave him a kiss. Due to her daily tasks, Lu Jiu would kiss her husband with every chance she got. After all, she spent a lot of gold coins buying things in the Spaces store. Therefore, she must earn the money back. Although Li Chenmo didn't know why his wife was obsessed with kissing him recently, he liked his wife's initiative. Therefore, he will create many opportunities for his wife to kiss him. In this way, Lu Jiu's gold coins increased at an extremely fast rate. After changing clothes, Lu Jiu took her husband's hand and left the space. Emerging in their bedroom, she went to the kitchen while her husband went to change Beiji's cousin's bandage. Lu Jiu took out a pot of porridge and 2 salted duck eggs she made from the space. After scooping a bowl, she put the rest of the porridge into her own space. She cut a salted duck egg in half and put it into the bowl. She carried a bowl of porridge and walked to the room in the backyard. When she came in, she saw her husband applying medicine to Beiji's cousin's wound. "Husband, should we feed him some porridge? He has been unconscious for a long time and hasn't eaten anything," she asked. Li Chenmo looked at Beiji's cousin and said casually, "Comrade, you can open your eyes and stop pretending to be asleep." As soon as he finished speaking, the man on the bed opened his eyes and looked at them. Seeing this, Lu Jiu discovered that the man was actually awake and just pretending to be unconscious. But from his point of view, it is normal for him to be more wary. After all, he woke up in a strange place, surrounded by strange people. "Since you're awake, you should eat something first," Li Chenmo said as he helped him sit down and leaned against the wall. The man made no resistance but still looked at them warily. He looked at them and asked, "Who are you?" Lu Jiu put the porridge on the bedside table and said, "Comrade, we are friends of Beiji. When you lost consciousness due to injury, you were brought here by him. It's great that you finally woke up." When he heard that they were his cousin's friend, the man breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Thank you for saving me. My name is Ding Ran. May I know your name?" "My surname is Lei," Li Chenmo said. Listening to his words, Ding Ran knew that he had no intention of telling him their names. Since they didn't want to tell him, he didn't insist. "Brother Lei, sister-in-law, how long have I been unconscious?" he asked. "You were brought here at 3 o'clock in the morning. You were already unconscious at that time. It's almost 8 o'clock in the evening now," Lu Jiu explained. Ding Ran frowned when he heard that he had been unconscious for almost a day. He hasn't been back since last night, and his parents must be worried sick. After thinking for a while, I said, "Brother Lei, I feel much better now, so I will take my leave first." Before he even got out of bed, Li Chenmo held his shoulders and said, "Eat something first, and then I'll send you back." As soon as he finished speaking, he heard a growling sound from Ding Ran's stomach. Touching his hungry belly, he nodded. Li Chenmo handed him the porridge and said, "If it's not enough, there is more in the kitchen." Looking at the thick porridge, Ding Ran felt grateful. It had been many years since he last had white porridge. Not to mention thick and fragrant, it even has salted duck eggs. Unknowingly, he finished the bowl of porridge in less than 5 minutes. Seeing that he was still hungry, Lu Jiu walked outside, took out the porridge from the space and brought it to the room. She put it on the bedside and said, "We made a lot, so eat more." Ding Ran swallowed and said, "Thank you, sister-in-law." Although he was embarrassed, he couldn't help but scoop out another bowl of porridge from the pot. 20 minutes later, he finally put down the spoon and burped. He wiped his lips with the back of his hand, glanced at Li Chenmo, and said embarrassedly, "Brother Li, I'm sorry. I finished the porridge." Li Chenmo glanced at the clean pot and said with a smile, "It doesn't matter, we had already eaten." Seeing that her sister-in-law was about to arrive, Lu Jiu quickly took the pots and pans to the backyard to wash, leaving Ding Ran and Li Chenmo in the room. In the room, Ding Ran said, "Brother Li, I want to go back to my home. I haven't come back since yesterday, and my parents must be very worried about me." "Where do you live? I'll take you back," Li Chenmo said. Hearing his words, Ding Ran was surprised by his kindness. They were strangers, but he was willing to save his life, give him food, and now wanted to send him back. He was embarrassed to disturb Li Chenmo and Lu Jiu, and wanted to refuse his proposal. But before he could speak, Li Chenmo said, "With your current condition, you can't walk very far. I'd better take you back on a bicycle to prevent your injuries from getting worse." Since he has disturbed the other party for a day, it indeed made no difference if Li Chenmo sent him back. After weighing the pros and cons, Ding Ran finally nodded and said, "Then, I will trouble you, Brother Li." Li Chenmo nodded and said, "You should change your clothes first." After saying that, he left the room for a while and came back with a clean set of clothes. Although they were Li Chenmo's old clothes, they were still clean and didn't have too many patches. Ding Ran knows that it is not easy for villagers to buy new clothes, and they cherish old clothes. So after he put on the clothes, he said, "Brother Lei, I will return the clothes to you after I wash them." Li Chenmo did not refuse and nodded. Although there are many new clothes in his wife's space, he still needs to wear these old clothes outside the new clothes to avoid arousing suspicion from others. Due to the height difference, Ding Ran had to fold his pants and sleeves several times before they fit properly. Lu Jiu saw her husband bringing Ding Ran out and asked, "Husband, will you send brother Ding back?" I will come back as soon as I send him home. Remember to lock the door after I leave," Li Chenmo said and patted her head. "All right." Before they left, Lu Jiu had already packed some vegetables, fruits, and a small bottle of tonic wine in the kitchen. So she handed the package to Ding Ran and said, "Brother Ding, I packed a bottle of tonic wine for you. Just take 1 spoonful a day to help nourish your body." Ding Ran was flattered, waved his hand and said, "Sister-in-law, it's too expensive. I've been bothering you and Brother Li for a long time, how can I accept it?" Lu Jiu thrust the package into his hand and said, "You were injured when you sold my stuff, and it can be considered a work-related injury. This is just a small gesture from my husband and I to thank you for helping us sell our items. Don't refuse." Now that she had expressed it this way, it would be rude of him to refuse, so Ding Ran took the package and said, "Thank you, sister-in-law." Apart from thanking them, Ding Ran didn't know what to say to express his gratitude. All he could do was recover as quickly as possible and work harder to help them sell their stuff. Li Chenmo looked at the moon and said, "It's getting late, we should go." "Husband, be careful on the road." Li Chenmo leaned over and kissed her, saying, remember to lock the door." Seeing them showing affection in public, Ding Ran was stunned and blushed. After they left, Lu Jiu locked the door and went out to check on the children. Seeing that they were already asleep, she covered their bellies with a thin quilt, then took out a basin of ice cubes from her own space and placed it in the corner of their room to reduce the heat. After that, she went to the room in the backyard to tidy up. Looking at the blood-stained bedding, she was thankful that there was a washing machine in her space. If she has to wash it by hand, it may not only leave stains, but her hands will become sore and rough. Lu Jiu kept everything in her space, cleaned the room, and then sprayed disinfectant to remove the smell of blood and medicine in the air. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like the video and comment down if anything wrong in the story. Hello.